We are live. Welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports? I hope all of you are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. Huge show in store for you tonight, which, ironically, about an hour ago, former LSU strength coach Tommy Moffett, it is reported by multiple places, and ourselves included, will be the next strength and conditioning coach at Texas A&M. Do you know that little cousin that you have, especially guys, like especially you older gentlemen who have, younger cousins, you probably are going to know what I'm talking about here. And especially now around the holidays, you especially know what I'm talking about. You know that little cousin that always looks up to you, wants to be like you. Like one Christmas, you wear jeans and cowboy boots, and the next Christmas, he's wearing the same thing. He wants the same thing that you do, wants to be like you. Well, that's what Texas A&M does to LSU. They try to take LSU offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock. Can't do it. Then go and get Tommy Moffett, who Brian Kelly let go when he was hired at LSU. We'll talk about Tommy Moffett. What do I think that means for A&M? What does it mean for LSU? Right? When a guy had been here for 20 plus years, over 2 decades, being a part of 3 national titles, the best tenure in LSU football's history, we will discuss. Also, not the only thing that we got to hit on tonight. LSU is back at practice. Some good news. I don't know if this means a whole hell of a lot, but looks like Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, who were out at practice this week, they might be going in this bowl game. I don't know why they would be practicing if they're not attending or expecting to play in the bowl game. Jayden Daniels was not available, as we saw him in multiple places during practice. So we'll see the status on Jayden Daniels. I do not expect him to play, nor do I think he should play. But nevertheless, pretty awesome to see Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas out there at practice. We'll discuss some little things. Maybe some guys some freshmen that I'm hearing that have gotten better through this year. Maybe some guys we will see in this bowl game as well. We'll talk a little bit of the transfer portal, but speaking of LSU practice, Matt Perkins, who covers Wisconsin, the Believe in Badgers podcast, will be joining us at 6:30 to talk some LSU in Wisconsin. What do we expect from Wisconsin in this bowl game? They got a big addition today. Tyler Van Dyke, the former Miami quarterback, has committed to Wisconsin, so we'll touch on that. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to having Matt Perkins on the show to talk a little football because it feels too long, man. Kind of has been a little too long since LSU has teed it up and been on the gridiron. So we'll discuss that. Women's basketball on the court tonight against McNeese, which will probably lead me into a Ruffino's rants of Will Wade making a mockery of the NCAA investigation being over. I mean, look, man, you still were guilty. Simple just shut. And this is Will Wade, and a lot of you want him back because LSU men's basketball is not doing good. I get where you're coming from. A simple "I'm sorry" would suffice too. I know people don't like that, but it is what it is. And as we do every Tuesday and Thursday, hashtag Ask Blake, thoughts, questions, concerns, fire them inside the Rudy Crew chat, and we will get to as many of them throughout the show as we can. Patrick says, watch Tylen Singleton early sign today. Let's go. Yes, indeed. Yeah, that kid's going to be an absolute freak when he touches LSU's campus. Jackson Carter says A&M just got better. Did they? I mean, a lot of you wanted Tommy Moffett out when he was let go by, before Brian Kelly. So we'll see. Michael Morris says he's in Shreveport, Louisiana. Had to work tonight. Good to have you in here with us, bud. Where are you watching the show from tonight? Are you in the 337-225-504985-318, or are you not inside the state of Louisiana? Where are you watching the show from tonight? We'll get some of those up here as well. Brian Tanya says, good evening from the 409 Vitter, Texas. Good to have you in here. Rob Boudreaux says, Tommy Moffett is dead to me. I feel you, man. I know a lot of people don't like it. I don't think it I don't think that it is a massive deal. I think Jake Flint and his staff are exceptional at what they do. I mean, look, Matt Flint didn't call defensive plays, and we'll talk about that a little bit with Moffitt too. I think some things were a little unfair to him as well. Andrew says, is Logan Diggs coming back for another year? I would not think so. I haven't been told either way. We'll see. I know that Logan Diggs kind of puts, beats to his own drum. He doesn't really listen. He's going to do what he wants to do. And good on him, man. And look, running backs have a very short shelf life. He's another guy. I mean, look, I'm looking at it, what's best for the player, what's best for the dude. I don't think that he can come back and prove anything. Now, I think that LSU is going to have to rely more on the running game from obviously the running backs or there's other sources of ways that they can run the football, because I don't think Garrett Nussmeier is going to, but clearly don't think that Garrett. Y'all hear my baby girl screaming? I really don't think that Garrett Nussmeier is going to ever bust off an 85-yard run, right? So they're going to have to rely on, maybe he can improve his draft stock a little bit. I don't know. We can hear you, Joel. Hey, Meg. Yes, indeed. Shannon just says that she's at the PMAC watching the women's basketball team. Glad to have you in here with us tonight. Humbug says DFW by the way of the 985, the Kentwood Kangaroos, Dallas Fort Worth. Good to have you in here, Humbug. Yeah, man. A lot of Friday nights underneath the water tower out there in Kentwood, Louisiana. Trust me, I played in a couple of them. Mark says the 252 Greenville, North Carolina. Good to have you in here, Mark. Jamie's in the 225 Port Allen in the house. Jamie, what's that good donut place out there in Port Allen? Place is banging right when you get off the interstate right there on the right. That place is banging, man. Holden Lee, 337 Opelousas. Good to have you in here, my man. Good to see you with us as well. Krim says, yo, baby, yo. Yo, baby, yo, baby, yo. Man, I tell you, it made me think of that Vanilla Ice song for if some of you are my age, especially some of you guys that are my age. The Ninja Turtle movies that came out in the 90s, the real life Ninja Turtle movies. Go Ninja, go Ninja, go. Vanilla Ice sang that song and made me think of that. Speaking of that, they're coming out with a Netflix series of Raphael, if you were a Ninja Turtle fan like I was growing up. And you know what's crazy too? I have a son that's 4, and it's funny, like some of the things that I watch Ninja Turtles are something that he enjoys. Man, you know what's crazy? I get sucked right into I get brought into sitting there watching a episode of Ninja Turtles for 30 minutes, not knowing what the heck I'm doing because it's stuff that I watched as a kid. Master Splinter and his whole ass, trying to do something that, always trying to deceive the Turtles. Just can't do it. Master Splinter. Gotta love it. Chad Selfo says, hearing anything about the defense of coaches moving forward at LSU? No, I am not at the current moment. Now, I say this every episode. I'm going to continue to say it. When we know more, we'll tell you. I know it's not what you want to hear, right? Like I know for a fact it's not what you want to hear. The problem is that nothing that I'm not going to just come out here and continue to I'm not going to come out here and just make up shit like other shows have been doing about what's going on in that coaching staff. I'm not going to do that. If you can't find content, that's on you. Guys, I promise you, we will tell you about it. Now, there could be a situation where something happens that morning, rumblings start happening, and then the announcement's made, and easily can do it. Follow us on socials would be the best way to go about it. On YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Follow us on the socials to keep up with it. Other than that, or go to the message board. I dropped a big recruiting hint. You need to go over there if you're not doing so already. Go to the message board, ayssnetwork.com/forum. Dropped in a pretty big recruiting update this morning. So it's things that you need to go. If I had $1 for every time I was asked over the last 2 weeks about coaching changes, I'd probably have $1 million. But nevertheless, I mean, no, not right now. Not right now. I promise you we will discuss it. Now, do I think that there could be a potential situation like we talked about last week with Matt House being demoted, maybe not fired, potentially him going back to the NFL at the end of the NFL football season? Yeah, very much could happen. But I think that they're going to go break the bank for somebody at the defensive line, whoever that may be, somebody with Louisiana ties, and we'll go from there. But as of right now, no. Megan, come on. Well, do something. She's screaming. Jeez. Dane says, good evening, Blake. Stay true to who you are. That's why your show's the best. Thanks. I do appreciate that. Yeah, we're not going to come out here and make shit up. It's just not going to happen. David says, do you think Matt House is going to be retained? Guys, I've answered this question 1,000 times, man. I can't, I'm not trying to be rude or pompous or an asshole, but I mean, we've answered it, guys. I mean, I literally just answered it, I mean, I'm telling you what I think at the current moment. Could it be wrong? Yeah. Could it completely change overnight in the blink of an eye? Yeah. We will let you know. I promise. And here's another, if we wanted to run out here and just do shit for clicks, right? Like if I just wanted to run out here and do shit for clicks, I would talk about coaching source. Oh man, I'm hearing this. Oh man, I'm hearing that. Oh man, I'm hearing this. And it would get us clicks. It would get us views. We're not going to come out here and do that. We're not going to do that. So, all right, one more comment, then we'll get rolling. Rob says we don't mind about the kids coming in. Yeah, I know. It's just I can't think when she's screaming. Hey, dude, it's completely different having a boy and a girl. I tell you that. Andrew Martin says, Paul's Hub says, Moffitt is going to Aggieland to begin his assignment as a double agent. Boy, wouldn't you wish? Wouldn't you wish? Conrad says, Blake, I didn't realize JD5 played with Johnny Wilson, Rashad White, Ricky Pearsall. Man, Herm recruited well. Well, not only that, they had Brandon Ayuk, who's with San Fran, and they had 2 offensive linemen that are in the league. So, Herm recruited well. It just he couldn't sustain, right? He couldn't sustain anything, and he's a defensive guy. He gave Jaden zero help. I mean, look, he had a good year, but after that, Herm was complete dookie water. The big splash of hiring a guy like Herm Edwards got some guys in that door, couldn't sustain, and they went to straight trash. And I like Herm. I like Herm Edwards a lot. Okay, but the problem with Herm is that he let guys like Trevez Moore, who got processed at LSU and was told to move on because he's not any good, who talked about my family viciously, I might add, go to Arizona State, and it was a locker room cancer. So no. Patrick says Dookie water with 3 crying face emojis. I mean, it was Dookie water. It is Dookie water. I mean, it just is. All right. Tommy Moffett, A&M, we lead off with that. Matt Perkins in about 15 minutes will go up to Wisconsin. Believe in Badgers, Matt Perkins. Looking forward to that. Get a little preview of the Badgers. Going to be a fun show, man. Going to be a fun show. I've learned from my mistakes on trying to do a live show during women's basketball. That's why we are live at 6. Let's talk about a good friends over at betonline.ag. Our good friend Tyler Alexander, the best realtor in the state of Louisiana, LPT Realty. Obviously, the jingle. You know we love the jingle around here. Before we do that, everybody do us a favor. Hit the like and share. Should all those social media groups, should all of those social media pages. I am overjoyed by one thing. I asked you guys over the last couple of weeks if y'all could do us a favor and go over to Apple Podcasts. If you have an iPhone, go over there if you don't mind. If you haven't done so already, give us a 5-star rating, 5-star review. Every time that, something happens where some Rudy Poos, like 7 dudes in a week give us 1-star ratings. I know who you are. You know that I know. We have mutual friends. You've been reached out to. You won't call me. Yes, they're in media. You get your little cronies to give us 1-star reviews. All right, man. It's not my fault we were rated the #1 audio podcast for LSU sports. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so already, please go over there and give us a 5-star review. You can hit that subscribe button, hit the little notification bell. All of this is free. I'm not asking you for anything. Just, if you don't mind, do us a favor. It helps us so much. Grow the show and continue to expand. Thank you so much for doing so. Also, like, subscribe, notification bell on YouTube as well. We appreciate you doing that. Talk about our good friends at BetOnline. Tommy Moffett, LSU's back at practice. Malik Neighbors, Ryan Thomas, are they playing in the bowl game? We talk about that next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events, with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
We're back. That we are, and let's see if Texas can be. They are in the 14 playoff. At some point on this show, I will talk about the playoff myself. We do it on Ruffino and Joe show on Sunday, Monday, and Wednesdays. We have all the clips up there on our YouTube channel. You can go over there too and subscribe, hit the notification bell. Because, look, man, the comments get live up in there on Ruffino and Joe show. You LSU fans need to go over there, get in the comments, defend your boy, defend LSU. There are constantly people. We put a video up there about Jaden Daniels. They're attacking Jaden Daniels. You need to go make the wall and say, we LSU stands here. You will not talk about JD5. All right. Well, speaking of a wall, Tommy Moffett is going to be hired, or it was already announced by Texas A&M, that he will be the next strength and conditioning coach at Texas A&M. That being said, obviously, a lot of you LSU fans know who Tommy Moffett is. Was the director of football, strength and conditioning, head of strength and conditioning for LSU football for over 20 years. Won 3 national titles at LSU. Went through 3, I think maybe even 4 coaches. I can't really remember off the top of my head. Was here with Saban, was here with Les, was here with Ed. Then when Brian Kelly came in, Tommy Moffett was relieved of his duties as the strength and conditioning coordinator at LSU. Look, man, I think 2 things can be true at once. Do I love Tommy Moffett? Yeah, man, I do. He's always been great to me. He's always, never said anything bad to us. He's been open if ever asked a question. Great dude, man. Great dude. The way that, and look, strength and conditioning coaches mold your team more than anybody. They are with your football team literally more than anybody. Night and day with the team, see them more than the coaches, see them more than, I mean, look, they have to have a pulse on the entire team, from the punter, the walk-on punter, okay, to the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, guys like Jaden Daniels. They have to have the pulse on everything. But when I say two things can be true at once, I fully believe that. I don't blame Tommy Moffett for Ed Orgeron's mistakes. I don't. The same way that I did not blame Tommy Moffett at the end of the Les Miles era for Les's mistakes. There were so many bigger issues in 2020 and 2021, more than LSU, quote unquote, being pushed around or not being in shape, injuries, things like that, where I don't necessarily disagree, right? Like, I don't disagree that I think that Tommy, at the end of the tenure at LSU, thinks it's somewhat run its course a little bit. It kind of had. And over 2 decades long of service at LSU, yeah, I mean, thank you so much for everything that you've done, but I still think he's a good strength coach. I think that he can go to A&M and do some good things. I don't know necessarily if that's going to work out for him or that's going to work out for the staff. We'll have to sit here and find out. But I mean, I'm just not going to be the dude that comes out here and blames Tommy Moffett for all of Ed Orgeron's sins. Look, man, here's the truth. And there's one game, really more than one game, but one game that stands out. Like, when people, because a lot of people were in the chat and in the comments and sending me text messages just saying, well, he's overrated, he's done. He's not good anymore. And I'm thinking, okay, well, what makes you think that? And they give any kind of explanation, regardless of what the explanation is. And I would say to myself, well, it's crazy how you hold a national championship contending team in Alabama to 20 points when your offense was dong. You weren't any good offensively. Jake Peets was calling plays, but Durante Jones, look, you were able still to run the football. You were physical up front. You played really good defense. You did some good things. Don't let what Ed Orgeron did, wanting to play bump and run, man-to-man coverage on the outside, do it. Or just put you over the edge that Tommy wasn't a good dude or a good coach. I think that it was a lot of scheme when it came to what happened against UCLA a couple years ago. But the problem with that is, and here's the downfall of the Tommy Moffett era. Look, man, guys weren't ready to play. They weren't ready to go. It had just run its course. I think that and I know. Now, you could say defensively you can't really see it from this season. But look how good this team was last year in the fourth quarter, and really how good they were at times this year in the fourth quarter. This team was really well conditioned. I think Jake Flint and his staff has done a really damn good job at LSU. I wish Tommy success. I wish him good fortune, except for one game a year. Good on you, bud. But the uphill battle that he may have versus leaving and not being in a place like LSU, I think could be monumental. I think could be massive. So we'll see about that. I don't know how you feel. I just feel that it's okay. It's like okay, whatever. Not the only LSU football related news, I guess we could say, that we had today, though. Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. back on the field. LSU started practice this week. There's a couple things that we saw in a clip from LSU today. Ricky Collins making a really good pass to Shelton Sampson, 2 freshmen, connecting in the back of the end zone, beating Javian Toviano, who clearly was going to start for you in the bowl game versus Wisconsin. You love seeing that. I think the biggest news that comes from anything that LSU posted, really 2 massive things, but would be Jaden Daniels not being in the video. And if he was at practice, he's the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. They would have shown him in the video. You know that. I know that. Everybody knows that. But I think the biggest news in all of this is really, actually, I could add 3 things. Number 1, Matt House was coaching inside linebackers. There was a report that I don't even want to say report, but just a rumor that Bob Diaco would be coaching inside linebackers and Matt House would not be. maybe that is something, but he is still here coaching. But the biggest news is obviously that Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas were at practice this week, which would indicate that they would possibly go in a game. Look, I mean, if you're going to go to practice and you're going to subject yourself to possibly getting hurt in practice, it's one thing in getting hurt in a game. It's something completely different if you get, you twist your knee, twist your ankle, or do something awful at practice. I hope that they do play. Do I think that either one of them should? No. Do I want them to? Yes. That's where I sit on this. But I do think that it gives a guy like Garrett Nussmeier, if he were to start, some very not even good weapons, not even in Malik Neighbors' case, great weapons, can give him the confidence going into next year. And you have a proven commodity, two proven commodities on the outside that he can get the ball to. Still going to have to work in some of these younger dudes. And let's see if they do. Because I think if Malik Neighbors gets that 22 yards and breaks the all-time LSU record in receiving yards, I don't know if I wouldn't take him out. Maybe give him a couple plays here and there. Let him do some things. Let's go have some fun. Look, man, this bowl game's got to be fun. You want 10 wins. I want 10 wins. Starting the Brian Kelly era with him being 20-7 at his time so far would not be a bad way to start. I will tell you that if you would have told me that Brian Kelly would have 20 wins through 2 seasons at LSU, I would probably say, okay, so you beat all the teams you weren't supposed to. Or you lost to all the teams you weren't supposed to, but you beat all the teams you were supposed to beat. Beat Missouri, you were a favorite there. Lost, got upset by Ole Miss, but lost to Alabama this year, lost to Florida State in a game that you probably, maybe you should have won, but in all retrospect, you shouldn't have won. I kind of would have taken it. Now, do you got to get to that next step? Does LSU have to get to that next step? Yeah, and look, these bowl practices, a lot of people think are meaningless. They're not meaningless. There are 15 extra practices that you can go out there and dominate and do some really good shit. And quite honestly, man, something that you need, because the Brian Kelly era for me doesn't really start until Jane Daniels is a quote unquote officially out the door. I would be remiss to say that Brian Kelly obviously has probably talked to Jane Daniels more than any of us in reference to playing in the bowl game. I don't think he's going to play, nor do I think he should. That's going to be a top 10 pick. He's got everything to risk, and quite honestly, the truth is he's got nothing to gain. Not a goddamn thing to gain by playing in that bowl game other than making you feel that you should be to 10 wins. A lot of you wanted Garrett Nussmeier a lot in 2022. Well, now you get your chance to see the man go out there and do it. You wanted him to start. Well, here he comes, pause. Here he will be. I want Malik to get that record. I want him to go off against Wisconsin and stay healthy. The same for Brian Thomas. And look, in a place where I do think that you can get some yards on Wisconsin. I do think that you, with a guy like Nussmeier, can push the ball down the field. Okay? What should have been Biletnikoff winner, what if Marvin Harrison's a better prospect? I don't give a shit if what he is. Like, I could give two shits. The guy that should have won the Biletnikoff award could potentially be playing in this game against Wisconsin. The other part of that would being true freshmen being on the outside that you have not seen play. It's a big deal that we've seen those two guys in here. Didn't see Logan Diggs, the running back. Don't think that that's a big miss. I think you got horses in that stable, in that running back room to get you there. All that to say, man, I'm excited for this game. I think the next page of this BK era has kind of somewhat started to officially turn the page. Again, Saturday night, I don't have anything to hold. Saturday night when Jane Daniels was holding up that Heisman Trophy, the page turned. So, all that to say, I'm excited for being at these practices. 15 of them. It's a lot, man. I mean, guys, that's half of this month. Half of this month, they're going to be preparing for Wisconsin. Or as T-Pain would say, Wisconsin. All right. What's that, guys? All right. We got Matt Perkins in the building. Let's get to him. Let's do this. Let's talk about our good friends over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Our good friend Carol Foss over at State Farm. Steve Bean over at Bayou Daiquiris and Bayou Bowl to Go. We talk a little LSU, Wisconsin. Next. Did y'all hear me? Next.
By the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Whether you've been injured in an accident, you're preparing for a future with your estate planning, you're getting ready to close in on a real estate deal, or you're about to welcome a new addition through adoption into your family, or you're facing criminal charges, you need very experienced attorneys, and that is what the Drake Williams Law Firm will be able to do for you in navigating the legal system. The door to their cozy office in historic downtown Ponchatoula has been open since 1981. They have helped thousands and thousands of Louisiana families and individuals win cases, close on real estate deals, and regain that peace of mind. Their lawyers over at the Drake Williams Law Firm, Ernie Drake III, Ryan J. Williams, and Summer Vignair, are very determined, compassionate, and dedicated to their craft. It's the Drake Williams Law Firm, drakewilliamslawfirm.com. Give them a call today at 985-386-7600. Tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by.
Guys, you might know my good friend Carol Foss and all the great service that he provides over at State Farm. He is your good neighbor after all. But did you know State Farm has surprisingly great rates as well? Along with the great neighbor service, State Farm agent Carol Foss has surprisingly great rates for everyone inside the state of Louisiana. So call him today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300 for all of those surprisingly great rates on auto, home, and life insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and individual premiums will vary by customer. All applicants subject to the State Farm underwriting requirements. Bayou Daiquiris at Bayou Bowl and Go is owned and operated locally by Steve and Lisa Bean. You can find them at 1512 North Highway 190 in Covington, Louisiana. That's 1512 North Highway 190 in Covington. The North Shore's first crawfish drive-thru is about to step it up another notch by bringing you drive-thru daiquiris as well. You can call in your order today at 985-888-1914, 985-888-1914, because you know what? Daiquiris and crawfish, it's a Louisiana thing. Matt Perkins, Believe in Badgers, covers Wisconsin. And Matt, remind me, you also do the Believe in Vandy show, correct? You cover the Vandy Vols, or Vandy Vols, I shouldn't have said it. Vandy Commodores, excuse me.
I used to be on the Vandy beat. That is correct. No longer. My wife's a Vandy alum. We're Vandy season ticket holders. But dude, it just got too depressing. Like, it was literally like it was taking away from my mental health so much to have to follow that team on a day in and day out basis, that after the first Clark Lee season, I was like, I'm out. I'm sorry, guys. I can't do this anymore. Like, this is it's just not it's not healthy for me. And so and I was also, by that time, I was really full-time on the Wisconsin beat, also editor-in-chief over at MikeFarrellSports.com, contributing for Badger Blitz, Rivals Network, and hosting a Legal Motion college football podcast with our friend Corey Burton. So I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't do it anymore.
Well, I feel you there, but I remember the last time we had talked, you were on the beat and you were like, dude, I don't want to be here. You know, it's like,
and I'm not anymore.
Right. It's like, you remember when Magic left the Lakers? I won't be here. So it's so good. But glad to have you on here, man, because obviously LSU and Wisconsin, as T-Pain would say, face off. And look, the last time that these two teams played, kind of got a little chippy, which led to the Les Miles being fired, Ed Orgeron being hired. That's what the last memory of LSU fans with Wisconsin. When this was announced, I guess, what were your earlier thoughts of this game and this bowl game with going to Rely Quest?
Okay, so first of all, super selfishly, I live in Nashville. Obviously, I'm a Wisconsin guy, but I live in Nashville. Every single projection had them going to the Music City Bowl. And I already had a live show set up with guests who were going to be going to the bowl game no matter what. So honestly, I was devastated. I was completely devastated. I was ready for the Music City Bowl against Texas A&M or Auburn. And now they have to go play the artist formerly known as the Outback Bowl.
Right.
And I can't travel. I'm not traveling to Tampa. I'm sorry, for all my friends who are who live in the state of Florida, but I'm not traveling to Tampa. Especially no, that's not happening. And the Badgers have been to that bowl game so many freaking times.
Right.
Like in my 25 years of Badgerdom, give or take, I think they've been to that bowl game 5 times, and it's it's always the Outback Bowl. So I'm honestly I was really bummed. I'm excited to see, especially if Jane Daniels is going to play. I like that. I love that receiver room with Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors. I want to watch those guys, especially against Ricardo Hallman, who today was named third-team All-American at corner. I'm really excited to see him take on Malik Neighbors, who I think he's going to be basically matched up with, assuming that Neighbors plays, or Brian Thomas, or who was ever playing for them, because he's been a stud corner. He's done a really, really good job. One of the few bright spots on what was, obviously built up as a really huge season for the Badgers, and 7-5 feels pretty flat for a lot of Wisconsin fans, and that's understandable.
So, look, I thought that Wisconsin managed pretty well after the Mordecai news, him going down. You have a young guy coming in, and look, battled Ohio State to the very end. And to be real with you, and Matt, for me, and maybe you have a different thought on this, I had not watched a lot of Wisconsin football until then. And until that game, I'm like, you know what, man, they might be losing, but you could tell Ryan Day doesn't want to be here. And they fought the entire year. Am I wrong in saying that this team, hey, LSU, you had a good year. It's 9-3. Look, if you don't buckle your chin strap, Wisconsin's coming to pop you in the mouth. That's the vibe that I get in watching film. That's the vibe that I get now and going back and watching an Ohio State game. Am I right there? Would that be a good pulse of what the first year's been under the new regime at Wisconsin?
I would say you've got I'd say you're probably 80% of the way there. I think that there is naturally, when you have a new regime take over, especially over for one that, they fired an alumni. They didn't hire Jim Leonard, who everyone was expecting them to hire, who is obviously a legend in the program in the state of Wisconsin. Had, I think, 5 other coaches who were Badger alumni, all jettisoned. There were more divisions in the locker room than people wanted to let on. There's a lot of loyalty to Jim Leonard, especially, completely understandably. He'd obviously been one of the best coordinators in the country for half a decade. His story is unique. Guys really bond with him. And so for him not to be there, I think there were a lot of guys who didn't necessarily trust the transition to the 3-3-5. And we saw some of the issues that had when, they would get bullied a little bit up front. I think they got a lot better in the second half of the season. But if you go back and watch the Washington State game, they got annihilated. And that was one of the issues. A lot of offensive line issues. The offensive line as a unit has pretty much steadily gone downhill since 2019. And I said during the season, this is probably the worst offensive line unit in terms of 5-man units. It's 6 guys who really rotate in. That's been around in a quarter century. And what I got to shout out my podcast co-host, Matt Bernstein, the Hebrew Hammer. His line is that the Badgers started 5 right tackles this year. And I couldn't agree more. And so moving from, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, which is everything that they had seen for the last 30 years, to Phil Longo, air raid, even if you're running the ball, it's always coming out of a shotgun. There were so many offensive line issues that really just sort of short-circuited the offense from ever really getting into a rhythm until Tanner Mordecai opened it up a little bit more with his legs and things like that. He found a wide receiver 1 in Will Pauling, the slot guy. but it definitely took a minute and took a lot longer to get everyone on the same page. So I think that the team plays hard. I think the defense got vastly, vastly improved, especially in the back eight effectively of this defense with only 3 down linemen. But I still worry about going up against LSU. The defensive line has left something, has definitely left some room for improvement, as has the offensive line. And that's when you're Wisconsin, that's a real problem because that's sort of been the bread and butter is, offensive line, running game, and then strong defensive play, especially in the front seven. They just really didn't have that this year. I mean, their best defensive players are defensive backs. This is very strange. Hunter Wooler, the safety, and Ricardo Hallman, who I mentioned a minute ago, third-team All-American at corner. Like, those are really the only 2 defensive standouts they had this year.
Well, it's interesting that you bring it up because it was the second question I had, on our little handy dandy, sheet here. Them being 26 in passing yards allowed. Okay, what they did or were able to do in the secondary. And like you mentioned, if Malik goes, if Brian Thomas Jr. goes, dude, you're talking about 2 All-Americans going at it, right? And so I think that, now Malik needs 22 yards to break the all-time LSU record in receiving yards. Maybe he does go. But let's not mistake that this is going to be that would be a hell of an NFL battle that we would see on the field, which feels a little crazy. I want to circle back to one thing that you said. Is that your co-host had said that you started 5 right tackles this year?
Yep.
The question I would have is LSU defensively was really bad in the front seven. Okay, like horribly bad. Who wins that? I mean, were they so bad that you think LSU can do something, or were they just kind of just out of position? Maybe they can figure some things out against a very struggling LSU defense.
I mean, Indiana and Northwestern were doing stuff. So, it's can LSU, yeah, I mean, LSU's talent is there. I mean, like you look at Mason Smith, you look at those guys, like those dudes should be able to push them around. It's going to be a little interesting to see there's rumors afoot that 2 of the starters may still enter the portal, may declare for the draft this year. That's a little bit up in the air at the moment, but assuming that the starting 5 is still intact, for the bowl game, I still think that they're going to get beat up a little bit. The biggest issue, this might be, I hope this isn't too like in the weeds for you, but
it won't be for this show. I promise you.
Okay. The issue that this team has had is snapping the ball in the shotgun. Tanner Bortolini, who is a genuinely wonderful human being who I got to meet this summer, hang out with at Squat Fest. Bernie and I were there. It was an amazing event. Tanner Bortolini is a guard masquerading as a center. And his snaps are lollipops, getting back to Tanner Mordecai or whoever the quarterback is. And because if you go and you watch any offense that has that's running out of the shotgun all the time, the ball is snapped back at a decent pace, and it takes a quarter of a second to get. Let's say it takes a quarter of a second to get to the quarterback. His snaps are taking 3/4 of a second to a full second to get to the quarterback. And the timing is so off because of that. Because you think about it, right? You're in practice when you're taking snaps 7-on-7, the coach is tossing you that ball really quick, right? And so your timing is off by half a second. And this is my personal theory. The timing of the snaps is the reason why this offense can't get in sync and in gear when it comes to game day, because it's just been way too inconsistent. They brought Jake Renfro in from Cincinnati to play center, who had been an All-American center at Cincinnati. He was injured out all year, even though, he was questionable every week. And then
and LSU was highly after Renfro too. Like it was a Wisconsin LSU battle. I remember that.
Yeah. And so that was an issue. I believe that if he had been healthy and he had been able to play, Bortolini then is able to play his natural position of right guard. And you have actually a very different offensive line and a very different unit that could have been more productive. But Bort really struggled with the snaps. He got better as the season went on, but it genuinely wasn't until like week 9, week 10, like really in the Nebraska game is really when I started to notice it getting a lot better. But by then, that's the 11th game of the season. And, you're 5-5 in that game, you're 6-5, but it's not enough. And so that was I think that was one of the more persistent issues that had huge ripple effects for the entire offense.
Makes sense because you're kind of just setting me up. It's like you've done this before. Because my next question was, look, the Lockheed, Braden Lockheed, right? Lockheed,
Lock.
yeah,
Lock.
okay. The Lock kid, and watching him, me and the team watching him today, the biggest thing that we walked away from, guys, where's the? All right, there it is. So the number 3 thing we walked away from is like, dude, if this guy gets a little bit more accurate, he's there with his decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's 5 touchdowns, 1 interception ratio, and I'm like, but damn, he's only connecting on 50% of his passes, right? Like, I mean, it was so wild that you could be that process oriented and you're that inaccurate. I'm like, that doesn't really work well. Those kind of quarterbacks that process mentally are usually really accurate on timing. So that makes a lot of sense. Do you think that Lock, I mean, to me, at least today, I'm like, man, this kid can throw. Like, he knows what he's seeing and getting it there. Something's just off. Do you think it's just like you mentioned, just that timing? Do you have you liked what you've seen from him?
Yes, if you go back, and so if you go back to the spring game, and in the spring game, Tanner Mordecai looked awful, and Braden Locke absolutely ripped apart the first team defense. 3 touchdowns, no picks, like looked genuinely incredible in the spring game as QB2, which was a big surprise, right? He had been brought in after his freshman year. He transferred up from Mississippi State, and they'd also brought in Nick Evers, who was a really ballyhooed prospect from, I think, Flower Mound, Texas, was at Oklahoma, transferred out after a year. And Locke had clearly picked up the offense so fast. But then when it got to game speed in Madison, when he was starting games, right? He's starting against Illinois, he's starting against Ohio State, Indiana, those kind of games, like it seemed like things were just going a little bit too fast. Like things were just going a little bit too fast. And you saw this, there was on a key 4th and 2 against Northwestern that could have won the game, for at least putting them in position to tie or win the game. 4th and 2, there's Will Pauling, receiver, is wide open in the flat, and I mean no one within 10 yards of him sails it right over his head. And it's like, this is some of the more basic stuff that you expected him to get in his 3rd or 4th start, in being in this system for his entire life. So that was a little bit interesting. It's also, I think, pretty indicative that the Badgers announced, Tyler Van Dyke has signed a couple hours ago. And so, some people thought, okay, it was going to be Locke's job, like, pretty much no matter what. Nope. It's going to be Tyler Van Dyke. It's now Tyler Van Dyke is going to be QB1 for the spring. But for this game, Mordecai's going to play. So, but I do think we'll see a little bit of Locke as well, especially if things turn out like I imagine they will, and LSU is up big in the second half.
Do you think? Oh, okay. I'm going to circle back to that because let me tell you something, man. I'm as nervous as a long-tailed cat sitting next to a rocking chair. Do you think Locke hits the portal then?
No.
Okay.
His little brother's coming next year. His little brother is 2025. So
you're going to have Wisconsin going to have 3 dudes that's got significant snaps in college at the quarterback position.
Next year they'll have 2. They'll have Van Dyke and Locke, because Mordecai will have graduated. Evers hasn't really seen any college action yet, and then they've got Mabry Matoyer coming in as a true freshman, who's a 4-star, who's one of the more notable quarterback recruits Badgers have gotten in a long time. Big kid, like 6'6", 230. Like, Trevor Lawrence Light got the same hair as well. So that's going to be really interesting to watch in the future. The Van Dyke thing, though.
Yeah, let's talk about that. What do you think about him?
I think it's really interesting because my assumption was, in the limited conversations I've had with people in the program, some coaches, that I was really expecting them to go for more of a Daquan Finn, someone who has a true dual threat. And because we saw the offense open up when Mordecai really started to use his legs, Locke's not a runner. He's just not a runner. And I think the world of Locke in a lot of ways. I think he's incredibly intelligent. I think he processes super well, like you mentioned, but he doesn't have the physical traits. Tyler Van Dyke has those physical traits, but he's been in so many different offenses under so many different coordinators that I worry that his wires have been crossed a little bit at some points. Right. That being said, his best year came under Rhett Lashley. The system that Lashley and Longo run are much more similar to anything that Tyler Van Dyke ran in the last couple seasons.
Right.
Is, in the Cristobal era, because we know what Mario Cristobal wants to do. Mario Cristobal is a caveman. He literally just wants to take a rock and just smash you all day. And I don't think that's what Van Dyke does well. I think Van Dyke, when he has a second to be back there, process, get it out, he can make those deep outs. He can make those deeper throws.
We saw it against A&M, man.
I know. And so I like the pickup in a lot of ways. I will be more bullish on it once I see the offensive line show that they can actually be in sync and protect.
Yeah, and look, it's like 2 steps forward, one step back with Van Dyke a lot of times. Sometimes 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and so he's been so hot and cold, but like Rhett's offense played in it, okay, when he, been a part of it personally, okay, it's not that difficult to learn,
Nope.
like it's the same air raid type principles, okay, with a little bit longer name. All right. So it's basically that same thing as well. Matt Perkins joining us, Believe in Badgers. Also, give me the Mike Farrell thing.
Mike Farrell, MikeFarrellSports.com. I'm the editor-in-chief over there. So we're doing some really good stuff, putting out a lot of really interesting content these days. Mike is just a machine, always has been, always will be.
You guys are killing it in the portal, dude. Like all y'all's portal news. It's insane.
Thank you.
How much are you refreshing the portal?
It's basically just like a direct IV into my veins at all times. Like I have I'm basically I'm like Matrix style in the portal at this point. It's like tapped into my body.
I'm gonna start calling you Keanu Reeves. Let me ask you this: what grade would you give Fickle and the staff this year?
I give him a B.
I think that's fair.
I give him a B. I think that expectations were built. We're really high for a lot of reasons. Fickle's been one of the most coveted coaches for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
To come out of a group of 5 school. They brought in Phil Longo, ballyhooed offensive coordinator, who's done wonders with Sam Howell and Drake May and Matt Corral and all these other guys. They bring in a ton of transfers, especially the wide receiver position, the defensive back positions. There's a lot of positive buzz. There's been a lot of very proactive social media. You see the social media department has gotten, much more engaged. There's been a doubling down from especially the athletic director, Chris McIntosh, former Badger offensive tackle, who was on those Rose Bowl teams of the late 90s.
Right.
And there's been a very concerted effort to build a lot of goodwill because they knew there were going to be a lot of people who didn't love the fact that they really stepped out of the Wisconsin way that has been evident since Barry Alvarez stepped on campus in 1990. And it's a big fundamental shift. So there was a lot of things that they want to get out there. They've been really great about the media. I will say this new staff is much more media friendly, which of course led to more higher expectations from the media.
Fickle. Y'all interviewed Fickle a while back, correct?
Yeah, we've had Fickle and we've had every assistant coach.
Isn't that just
on the
great
show.
when coaches allow you to talk to coordinaters and position coaches? Isn't that great just to pick their brain?
It's fantastic, and I will give a shout out Brady Collins, the strength and conditioning coach. He's the one who's kind of got the ball rolling. Came by. He joined us on the show. You've had strength and conditioning guys on the show before. They don't shut up and they tell the best stories.
They do.
We were supposed to have him. We were supposed to have him for 25 minutes, and we ended up going an hour 45. And so after that, I knew we were in good shape. But yeah, we had Longo, Mike Tressel, Coach Fick in person. I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of that interview. We went down to Squat Fest in Madison. Got Coach Fick in person and got him for about 35 minutes. Just the 3 of us, and fully live, everything. It was awesome, man. And so I think that's why there was so much expectations coming into the season. Tanner Mordecai's come in. He put up 72 touchdowns in the past 2 seasons at SMU. What's going to happen? Well, it didn't really click. Braylon Allen, all-American talent at running back, but he just wasn't a natural fit. He's Derrick Henry trying to play a position that is tailor-made for a completely different skill set, right? And so Chez Malusi, who actually was the more productive back, was the better player earlier in the year, he gets hurt out for the season, and I think that did not help at all, because he was a much more explosive guy, was someone who could get to the edge quicker. Braylon, once he gets ahead of steam, you don't want to tackle him, but it
Right.
takes him a second to get that head of steam, whereas Ches was accelerating super fast. And so I think that's why it's really interesting to see. Braylon's not going to play in the bowl game. He's declared for the draft and is leaving. They've got 3 freshman running backs coming in next year, all of them 4-star guys who are all going to compete for a lot of playing time next year. But because of that, the backs that you're going to see in this game for Wisconsin are Jackson Aker, who is a fullback before this year. You're going to see Cade Giacomelli, who came in as an athlete. This is his, I guess it's his first real season playing running back. I guess second season playing running back. But, again, he was a high school athlete, like, one of those kids, played quarterback for his high school because he was the best athlete, that kind of thing. And then who knows, like a couple of walk-ons. And so it is a very, very thin running back room at the moment. And, that's going to be tough without Braylon Allen to get anything going that way. They're going to have to rely on the pass game. Chimere Dike, team captain and nominal wide receiver 1, has decided to hit the portal as a grad transfer, so he's not playing in the game. Skylar Bell, who received, I think, the 3rd most snaps at wide receiver, not playing in the game. So it's going to be, especially as it comes down to skill position players for the Badgers, it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle. And that even goes back to the fact that entering the season, the week before fall camp started, their top 2 tight ends both retired from football.
Right.
And so, they were starting basically a true freshman who was one of the kids that had an offer from Colorado. Was committed to Colorado, and Dion cast aside, said, no, I don't want you, in Colorado. And, the kid ends up actually being really good, freshman all Big Ten, that kind of stuff. So it's been a really, on roster wise, it's been a really, really interesting year to see sort of not just the turnover, guys having to try new positions and stuff like that, new schemes. And so I think everyone in and around the program underestimated just how much of a lift it was going to be in order to get that roster up to speed in 2 completely new schemes than they had been running for the past 30 years.
Last question, I'll get you out of here. I've been asking every guest, because Joe DeLeon and myself on Ruffino and Joe show yell at each other the whole time. So I'm just getting everybody's thoughts. Your thoughts on the playoffs and the 4 teams. Yeah, you can throw Florida State in there, but what do you think is going to happen this year's playoff?
What's the okay? So my 2-pronged question. First of all,
Bama, Michigan, and Washington, Texas.
So what's the purpose of the playoff? Is the playoff to get the 4 most deserving teams, or is it to get the 4 best teams on paper?
What do you think?
In my perfect world, it's the 4 most deserving teams. What does Herm Edwards say? You play to win the game. And as much as Herm has a bunch of warts, he ain't wrong on this one. And Florida State won all their games. And when you're going to reward when Liberty gets the Group of 5 at-large bid, and the reasoning behind it is they just kept winning, despite playing the 133rd ranked strength of schedule this year.
Right.
And they get the reward over an SMU team who played a way tougher schedule, has way better metrics on paper. Once you factor in strength of schedule and that sort of stuff, well, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. So personally, I would have had Florida State in, but that is because, to me, what matters, it matters more what you put on the field than what you have on paper. So honestly, to me, I think Florida State was one of the 4 most deserving teams. Are they one of the 4 best teams as constituted right now? Probably not, but I also wouldn't put it past that defense to shut down anyone, because between Jared Verse, who's big number 55, plays defensive tackle, who was the transfer, Braden Fisk. Yep. They've got dudes. They've got dudes on that defense. And so in my heart, I want Washington to win it all. I want Washington to win it all so badly.
Okay.
I'm mad that my dream national title matchup from those 4 teams would have been Washington, Texas. That's actually the game I would have wanted to see most.
The Alamo Bowl last year too, by the way.
Yeah,
we got
exactly.
Last year, yeah.
Exactly. But you know what? I think Alabama's going to win it all. I really do. I just don't. It's going to happen, and we're all going to be sad. And this is all very preventable. This was we could have been the committee could have guaranteed a new winner. But what do? No, they got to put in Alabama. So I personally disagree with it. I would have had Michigan 1, Washington 2, Florida State 3, and Texas 4. but because those were, I thought, the four most deserving teams. But
You know, Matt, before I get you out of here, just making this statement, we were talking about this. You brought up Liberty, okay, which made me think of talking about this again. Let's just say, for argument's sake, Alabama beats Georgia next year in the SEC title game, and Georgia's number 5, and they got to play number 12 Liberty. Good luck.
Oh, I mean, that would be a joke. That would be a
And
complete
so,
joke.
you know, even Tulane, right? Like, so I know the people here in Louisiana don't like me saying this. Tulane's getting their asses kicked. All right. Like, they're going to get their teeth kicked in. I've seen that team probably 9 times this year. All right. Watching them play, they're going to get their teeth kicked in. So you want these group of 5s in there. Sounds good. But all I'm going to say is it's one thing of a 13-0 ACC champion getting in versus Tulane or Liberty. So,
and this ain't a Lincoln Riley defense they're going against like last year.
Right.
Georgia's a real team. Like they're not USC. They're not a joke team.
Right.
I don't say that just because I went to UCLA for grad school. Well,
Boise State ruined everything when they did that damn Statue of Liberty. Okay, and everybody thinks Goliath is just going to always fall. It's not. Goliath is too big at Georgia right now for a team like Liberty. Nevertheless, Matt, tell everybody where they can catch your stuff. I know a lot of LSU fans have been asking you guys over at Believe in Badgers, but tell everybody where they can catch it, where they can get it, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, Believe in Badgers. Check out our YouTube. Our YouTube. Check us out anywhere you get podcasts, Spotify, Apple Music, all Apple Podcasts, all those good things. You know, we're twice a week, every week. We got this week's a bit of an interesting week. We had the president of Four Tops who does in stadium renovations and seating. They just had a big renovation at Camp Randall. Had him to come on and talk about that. We actually got a women's volleyball show coming up tomorrow because Wisconsin's in the Final Four. So we got a shout out to our ladies who are trying to reclaim the national title. They were champs in 2021. They lost it last year. Got to get it back this year. So we've got a former volleyball player coming on with us. We got a bunch more bowl stuff coming. We got YouTube, any podcast feed. You know, we're on Twitter at Believe in Badgers, BLEAV in Badgers. I'm at _Perko_. Too many underscores in my name. MikeFarrellSports.com, BadgerBlitz.com. It's everywhere, man. You know, just ask me. I'm happy to guide the way wherever it is. And also shout out to you, Blake, and shout out to Joe as well. You guys do such incredible work. I love your show. I love your sponsors. I need to get drive-through crawfish and daiquiris like that. Seeing that ad before I came on, you know, my family's from New Orleans. You know, my aunt and uncle are Tulane people, and so like that just brings me so much joy when I see that. So,
dude, so listen, I concocted this because it's a big, you know, like it's a bigger place, and like when games are on, the entire place will be full. Okay.
Yeah.
So I deceived everybody. I went to these restaurants and like this place, okay, daiquiris and crawfish. So for our post game show, all the TVs have our show on, you know, like for the post game. I'm like, I love this, you know, but dude, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's so good. You gotta come on down, man. On me. I'll get you a whole gallon of daiquiris and some crawfish.
I mean, I can't turn that down. I absolutely cannot turn that. Yo, I'll bring some beignets and we will have ourselves a grand old time.
Awesome, man. Good having you. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure as always, Break. Thank you.
All right, that's Matt Perkins. Always fantastic. Well, look, the Lady Tigers are about to tip it off here, so we will we have some more things we got to talk about. We'll get to those tomorrow. But until then, y'all have a good night. Peace.